Alright everyone, this is a video I've wanted to make for quite some time now. This is my Russian DP28 light machine gun. I've had this in my collection for quite some time now, I think just well over a year now. It's just been hard to try and make a video on it. As you can see, it's quite big and it's awkward, so trying to fit it in camera can be a bit funny. In the end, I just decided to plop it down in the garden, get the camera out, and maybe I'll pan around with the camera or whatever, but this is pretty much as good as I can get it. So the DP28, it's quite an impressive light machine gun really. It's a very overlooked one as well. Everyone thinks of the Bren guns and the MG42s, but the DP28 is definitely up there in terms of being a reliable workhorse. Now, made in 1928 for the Soviet Army, it was quickly drafted in and it was pretty known for its solid dependability. It got everything right. Its firepower, it fired the 7.62x54 rimmed cartridge, which is these, just as you can see. This is on a Mosin Nagant stripper clip. These feed into a drum magazine, which I'll show you in a minute. We have good powerful cartridge, and it fired around 550 rounds per minute, which doesn't sound impressive, but for an automatic weapon like this, for the time period, that was the sweet spot. It wasn't too fast where it overheated like the MG42. I mean, you have to change barrels on that after around 100 rounds, I think. It was a nice, dependable fire rate. It was good to keep German heads down, and good, powerful cartridge, so it could inflict, pretty decent stopping power. So the DP28, it is often overlooked. It's very reliable. The Soviets absolutely loved it. I mean, they used it well up until the 1960s when it was eventually replaced by the RPD. And believe it or not, these are actually still in use in some third world countries today. I mean, if you watch the Syrian and Libyan war footage, you will see rebel groups and even government forces still using these. There's many variants of the DP family. I think there's the DP28, then there's the DPM, and then I believe they've made like a specialised belt-fed version of it. I mean, the Chinese have got their own variants. There's variants that mount into aircraft, variants that mount into armoured vehicles. So it's a pretty solid and dependable line. I mean, the DP28 is my favourite. It just kind of matches the wood and the steel. I just like that, and it's just got that menacing look about it. I mean, I have to say, as I say, it's one of my favourites in the collection. It's just been so awkward to try and make a video on it. So those that you are that keen-eyed, you may notice the bipod is on the wrong way round. That's just because with my pegboard display, I can't actually have it on the wall if the bipod's the correct way round, so I have to twist it round. You're probably wondering about the magazine. Well, this is it. Big old pan of a thing. These hold, I think it was 46 rounds of 7.62x54, which is pretty impressive. You can change these out pretty quickly. I mean, a lot of the bell-fed machine guns required 2 men to operate, but in a pinch you could have 1 man operating this. Only disadvantage is the magazines are a bit of a pain, so they are quite hard to carry, and they were susceptible to damage with them being large metal pans. Basically, they could get dinted and dinged. Other than that, that was basically the only complaint about the rifle. Everything else about the DP28 was solid. So putting the magazine in is actually quite interesting. You've got these little notches here where you have to line up these 2 small grooves. If you can't see, I will reshoot the footage on the action camera. But, you just line them in, and then, funnily enough, you have to actually pull back on the sights, and then it should just drop in and locks. And of course, to cock it, you just have to grasp it, and then it locks back. Now, they say you shouldn't really dry fire these, and to be honest I would agree, but I don't really do it all too often, so I'm pretty certain I can get away with it. There is a grip safety you'd have to press in. I suppose kind of familiar like to the 1911 or the Uzis. You just hold that in, pull the trigger, see, it lunges forward. Now, this can't be hip fired, to say the very least, not reliably at least, because if you were to put your hands here, it'll get caught by the bolt, and you're going to give yourself a pretty nasty injury. I suppose you could hold it here or by one of the legs of the bipod, but again, that's pretty finicky. This is best fired from the supported bipod position like so. So now I'll probably just pan around it with my camera and give you a little better view. Okay, so now I'm just going to give you a little zoom up of the rifle really, give you a little closer in-depth look. You can see the wooden stock is very crude. I mean, there's no rubber or metal butt pad on it at all. Straight upwards with very minimal varnish on it. So that metal part on the top, that's actually a cleaning brush that can unscrew. I believe it's quite rare to actually find a DP28 with one of them in. A lot of them apparently got lost over the years. You can see it attaches on here to the main part of the light machine gun. There's the grip safety I mentioned. Very light actually to pull in. I mean, it's almost not even noticeable. I mean, you just hold the light machine gun normally, you probably don't even feel it's there. That lever there is for how you actually disassemble the rifle. My one in particular is really stiff. I mean, you knock it down, you unscrew it, and you actually need a rubber hammer to separate them. Some of them you can separate by hand, but my one at all just not budge. Back of the sight post there, you can see the very crude welds. I mean, that was the thing with these, they were so crude, but they were equally as effective as the German parts, which is why, I suppose, in hindsight, how Germany didn't really do so well when they attacked Russia. They just did not have the numbers, they could not produce the equipment. A lot of their equipment, like the Panzers and the Tigers, was so over-engineered and over-complicated, they just could not get the equipment out. Meanwhile, the Russians with the T-34s, and even the likes of the DP28 and the PPSHs, PPS-43s, they were knocking millions of them out. The Germans could just not keep up with the Russian production. They just managed to perfect quality, effectiveness, but also affordability, you know, manufacturing efficiency. See, very heavy bolt on it. I mean, you don't want to be putting your hand there. You know, you might have heard of M1 Garand thumb. I wouldn't quite fancy, you know, your hands getting trapped by a DP28 bolt. That'd be quite painful. Gas assembly and your ported barrel shroud, and then of course the flared muzzle on the end. Do remember my bipod is on the wrong way round. That's just because of display purposes. I can't put it on my wall when it's the correct way round. But yeah, that's the DP28 light machine gun, and now I'll just probably cut to the action camera loading of the rifle.